There's another roadblock. Are any of the governments having any questions about your objectives and putting up any roadblocks to this idea of giving everybody a lot of this wonderful information?
Well, you know, it depends on the government. I would say in general the answer would be no. You know, it's very interesting. I mentioned that in most developing countries the telecommunications infrastructure traditionally belonged to the government. And of course the cell companies have done an end run around that. I don't exactly know what's happened, for example, in Kenya, a country I'm very familiar with, but I don't know. I would suspect that actually the government is getting enough in taxation from this burgeoning cell phone market that it sort of makes up for the fact that nobody is applying for a landline anymore. But the fact is, before, nobody really applied for landlines anyway, because it would have taken you 3 years to get a landline, and it was tremendously expensive. So I think the governments are going along with this for the most part. There are some pretty big exceptions. I mean, the government of Ethiopia, it just boggles the mind, but the government of Ethiopia, about 4 years ago, they felt, and the government of Ethiopia, it's quite distinct because the government owns both the landline business and the only mobile provider in Ethiopia. Right? You can imagine the quality of service that you get. So basically the government owns that, and they noticed a few years ago, about 4 years ago, that the opposition, the political opposition, was organizing, and they were using a lot of SMS messages, text messages to organize. So they turned it off for the whole country for 2 years. They just turned off the SMS system. So if you're going to organize with it, we're just going to turn it off. I mean, it's kind of the equivalent of like banning the use of paper, you know, because we think that people are writing stuff we don't like. So again, it really varies by government. I'm not sure, for example, what the policy. Well, I mean, China, of course, is a big if in that respect. But you know, what does the government of Burma think about using text messages, or what you could do with that? Mostly in Africa, we've had, you know, people are just amazed, interested, enthusiastic about it. And I think part of that is because, again, our approach is to not only say, oh, listen, we'd like to build systems for you to do all these different things. We'd like to give you fish, to use that analogy. But instead we say, we've developed this, we'd like to give you this new fishing rod we've developed so you can fish from now on. And I think people understand that difference and they're enthusiastic about it. We've also made a real effort. You know, when we first started developing stuff for, you know, along these lines, our developers were all programmers in the United States. And frankly, it was because I wasn't really thinking about it. I just wanted to get programmers, and I was amazed we had gotten grants to be able to do this stuff, and we did that. And then when one of our lead developers left to pursue something more lucrative, you know, working for some Silicon Valley, really quite an impressive project, and I started looking for more programmers, I was having some trouble, and I was talking to a Kenyan friend, and my Kenyan friend said, well, why are you just looking in the United States? I mean, you know, there are programmers in Africa. And he said, I'm sure they'd be much cheaper. And of course he was right. And so now we not only have programmers we have programmers we work with, we collaborate with in South Africa, we have programmers on our staff in Nairobi, Kenya, and we have contract programmers in Bangalore, India. But what we're actually really trying to do at this point is to, and again, this is along those lines of transferring capacity, not just handing out fish, we are trying to get funding to establish a development center in African and Southeast Asian cities, so that basically what we've realized is there are lots of nonprofits, government organizations, et cetera, who need to get programming done. They want to do projects, for example, like I've talked about. They want to use SMS to do this. They need technical expertise, which is not present in that country. And so what we're trying to do is basically enter into collaborations with the local university system. There's an excellent programming course, mobile programming course given between University of Nairobi with support from MIT. In fact, our programmer in Nairobi is actually a graduate of that program. And so we're trying to do, like that program basically takes college students who are interested in this stuff, teaches them specifically mobile programming. I mean, top of the field mobile programming, really advanced stuff. These guys really get it. But the problem is, then they graduate, and the only IT jobs that are available in Kenya are working for an insurance company installing Windows. Right? There's no jobs doing high-level mobile programming in Kenya. And so we're both sort of employing those folks, but also kind of giving them the skills so we can develop additional stuff and then hire those services out to other nonprofits or commercial companies who want to have that, increasing the capacity in the country. And getting back to the question about government, the government is very, very enthusiastic about that. I think there was another question, gentleman in the back.
You sort of powerful incentives for not being known and powerful incentives for being known.
Yeah, you know, this is one of those many situations that comes up when I give talks where I'm kind of teetering on the edge of talking about something I don't know about. It's definitely something that I've heard discussed, that I've discussed. The issue of the question has to do with privacy and security. I certainly think, of course, that both in Kenya and in Burma and in China and in the United States, the issue of the government tracking the whereabouts and activities and communications of citizens is a subject, to me, of grave concern. But I don't know, I'm not sure if I can really comment beyond that. I don't know if anyone in the audience is more familiar with it. It's something that sort of comes up in conversation. I'm definitely not expert in the topic. Does anyone else want to comment on that issue? No. Thank you.